Hello, this is Billy Core from the Carolina Circle Mall Wiki. Tonight is Wednesday, October the 29th of 2014. And what you're looking at here is, well, a pretty common sight for any person these days in our modern society, a typical smartphone. This particular one is a Samsung Galaxy S3. This is my main cell phone that I carry around with me. I got it for Christmas in 2012, and it served me very, very, very well. However, I've never been one to really make YouTube videos about cell phones. I mean, I like cell phones and all, especially very, very old ones. Heck, I remember our family's first cell phone we got new in 1994. I think the early part of 1994, I want to say, and I forget the manufacturer, but it was a bag phone. And for those who don't know what a bag phone is, well, a bag phone was basically what we used 25 or more like 20 years ago to for a cell phone. The whole battery pack and all the components for the inner workings of the cell phone you had to carry inside a bag at all times, and you would have a handset for with all the regular keypad that you would find on any standard landline telephone. And I believe our cellular provider at the time was Cellular One, who in the late 90s was bought out by GTE, and then in the early 2000s GTE was bought out by Verizon Wireless, who they're owned by today. My phone right here, my Galaxy S3, I have this with AT&T right now. So I got to thinking about some of my personal cell phones I've had over the years. In fact, I've had the exact same cell phone since I was 12 years old when I got my first cell phone in 2002. And today we'll be looking at the second cell phone I ever had from the year 2004. This is the cell phone I used religiously, day in and day out, from March of 2004 until I finally upgraded it to a camera phone. Remember those? In December of 2006. So this phone served me from ages 14 to 17. And if you're wondering what this phone is, well, here it is right here. This is my my old Samsung A530 cell phone that I had with Verizon Wireless from 2004 until 2006. And this phone was a trooper. It got me through so much stuff. Took it to the beach, took it everywhere with me except for school, of course. And it did a great job. Let's open it up there and zoom out a little bit. That's what the inside of it looks like. This was the first phone I had ever owned, or our family had ever owned, that had a color screen on there. My dad actually also owned a Samsung A530 cell phone at the same time I did. I don't know if he still has his. It's a miracle that this one survived all these years. So I pretty much had this phone in my possession for the last 10 years. And as you can see here, I have a leather case on it. Something that I've always liked to do with the majority of my phones, because, well, I don't trust myself. Stuff happens, accidents happen, and I don't want to drop my phone on the concrete someday, because that would be immediate game over. So let's just take the case off here so you can see what it looks like without it, the actual phone itself. As you can see, for the time, 2004, this was a pretty sharp looking phone. I mean, this was top of the line for its day. Now, it did not have a camera on it, of course, but it has a color LCD front panel display, And as I mentioned before, it has a and the inside display is also color. And I can see some of these little rubber feet here, after being a decade old, is starting to kind of rot itself out. And there's the back of it. Remember when cell phones had antennas? That's seems to be a lost art these days. So, oh yeah, and on the left side here you get a headset jack, which surprisingly hasn't dry rotted either, or I don't know what you can call it, but you get volume up and down. And on the other side, well, nothing really. So, I guess all that's left to do now is to fire it up, because believe it or not, after 10 years this phone still works. Now obviously you can't make any calls on it, but the electronics itself in here are still completely functional. So let's go ahead and power it on. Alright, get a little welcome display here. I do apologize, my tripod, well, it's on its last legs. Now get ready for a very good sound. I love that. That takes me back to my teenage years. And here is the main menu on here. Okay, it's updating the phone book and all that good stuff. I charged it up today while I was in Winston-Salem, so it has a full charge on it. And this was the wallpaper I always use on it, which was the calendar. And be perfectly honest with you, it's very eerie seeing the year 2014 displayed on this phone, because this phone is 10 years old, folks. It's hard to believe. And it still feels somewhat modern to me, believe it or not. So, let me see how I'm going to do this. You know what, I think we're just going to do away with the tripod for the rest of this video. Video. Alright, let's just have a sit down here. Here's the keypad on it, all lit up. It has blue LEDs all through it. This was also an internet-capable cell phone. Now, it was very, very, very primitive. In fact, I don't think I ever really used the internet on here, because the fees for it were just outrageous at the time. It wasn't like nowadays with phones like these, where you have like a data plan and everything. Everything's you get. But so basically, this was very primitive in terms of mobile internet. And you also had this feature here, if you can see, it's a little button that says Get It Now. This was a service that Verizon Wireless had back in the mid-2000s, where you could go online and download stuff like wallpaper, games, ringtones, that kind of stuff. I never really used it again because of the fees, but around 2006 or so, during the last few months of using this phone, I did download a few ringtones from Get It Now. Of course, they're not nearly as sophisticated as modern day ringtones, and please forgive me if I sound kind of stupid when I'm talking about cellular technology, because I'm really not all that familiar when it comes to the technology involving cell phones. So at any point I make any mistakes in this video, please feel free to provide any constructive criticism so I can feel like a complete idiot. You can see I had a little banner on here, which is my YouTube name, because back in the mid-2000s, everyone called me Road Geek, hence the name that I have on YouTube, which I opened in 2006 when I was still going by the name Road Geek. I really don't go by that name anymore because while I still enjoy studying roads, it's not nearly as important as it is nowadays with all my 90s nostalgia mayhem going on, which started all the way back in 2005 when this was my main cell phone. Oh boy, can't believe that's almost 10 years ago. Wow. Anyway, enough of me rambling. Let's take a look and see what all is on this phone. Let's go to the menu. Amazing how tiny this phone is. Like I said, in the 90s, cell phones were huge. And then in the 2000s, it got real tiny like this. But now in the 2010s, they've gotten big again. Well, not nearly as big as it was 20 years ago, but I guess since with the technology of smartphones and all the stuff they can do, they had to sacrifice the small size that we were spoiled with in the 2000s. So, due to privacy concerns, I'm not going to show who the last person I talked to on this phone was, but but this still has the original call log on here. The last call I had on here was at 8:57 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday, December the 14th of 2006, which was the night before I got rid of this phone. Well, not really got rid of it, but upgraded, I guess you could say. So, again, I'm going to show the phone book for privacy reasons. This was the first cell phone I ever had that I did text messaging with, although it wasn't very often because I found it very awkward to do anything word-related on a number pad. A lot of people were able to do it just fine, but I never really was. And there's the mobile web I was mentioning earlier. Again, it was very primitive, and no, it does not work anymore, obviously. Had a scheduler and day planner on here, which I guess most phones of this day had one. Last countdown I had on here was for Christmas of 2006, which was 2,865 days ago. Wow. And New Year's 2007 was 2,858 days ago. And my birthday in 2007, which I was not using this phone by then, was 2,528 days ago, and I'm going to shut up now because it's horrifically boring. And of course I had an alarm clock on here, which is a pretty standard feature these days. Get a world clock. No support for daylight savings time. Oh well, yeah, it says it's 8:43 p.m. on the east coast of the U.S. when it's actually 9:43 p.m. So yeah, and oh, I used this quite a bit back in the day, the calculator. Let's go back, get the display settings. And here's one of the cool parts of this. Let's take a listen to some of the ringtones. And again, like I mentioned, in the last few months I had this phone, I did use the Get It Now service to get about 2 or 3 ringtones. Again, not many because I didn't want to run up the bill. So I'll go to ringer type. Yeah, I think the ringtone I last used on here was Ordinary World by Duran Duran, which was one I downloaded from Get It Now. And Wake Me Up Before You Go by Wham. I guess those are the only 2 custom ones I had. Now, bell number 2 was what I used to always use for voicemails notifications. Now here's my favorite one of all time for this phone. I just absolutely love that ringtone for some reason. Wish there was a way I could port it over to my current Samsung phone. Samsung 2012 meets Samsung 2004. Okay, now what else do we have? Voice kit. I guess that's if you had like a headset, which I think I may have had, but I never used. It was too awkward. And setup menu for all the technical mumbo jumbo. GPS and network, data and fax, security, auto retry, all that good stuff. Clock set. Oh yeah, version. Here's all the software and model number versions and everything. You can see it's a A530 model, Samsung that is. So yeah, like I said, this phone got me through a lot of stuff. Got it in March of 2004. This was the phone I was using in 2005 when I started getting into the 90s nostalgia, which, as you can see, almost 10 years later, with that restroom sign and that Packard Bell 822, has gone into insanity almost 10 years later. So yeah. Oh, and I forgot to show the front display on here. There's several different types of displays you can have on here, like an analog clock, a couple little animations. The one I always went with was the digital clock and calendar. And it's amazing how this phone still works to this day, 10 years later, over 10 years later. Yep, I was 14 when I got it and was 17 when I finally upgraded it. Which the phone I upgraded it to was an LG flip phone that had a camera on it. It was my first phone ever with a camera. I cannot remember the model number, and unfortunately I no longer have that phone. Which is a shame because I never did get to save the pictures off of it. So we'll go ahead and turn it back off. Get that little bell there again. And yeah, 10 years later, still works electronically, that is. So yeah, I figured some of you cell phone enthusiasts out there would enjoy seeing a good example of a classic cell phone from the mid-2000s era. Hard to believe that the mid-2000s were 10 years ago. Still seems like yesterday to me. But oh well, that's time for you. That's time. So I guess that's all there is to say about this phone. So this is Billy Core signing off on October the 29th of 2014. Good night, everybody.